We take white fondant, top decor, about 600 grams. We knead it so that it is soft and elastic. Then we form it into a rectangle like this. Start rolling it out. Make sure to use starch, otherwise, the fondant may stick. Using a rolling pin, roll out the fondant. When we are rolling out our fondant, we have to take into account that the height of our cake is now about 20 centimeters. That is, we need to roll out the width to about 24 centimeters with some spare fondant. Also, measure out the diameter. You can measure the diameter using a tape and then place it against your fondant. Again, leave about 5 centimeters spare. The thickness of the rolled fondant in the final form in which we will cover the cake should be about 4 millimeters. But you should pay attention to the fact that it should be the same thickness all over, around the edges and in the middle. If any air bubbles form while you are rolling out the fondant, as we have here, you can use the sharp end of a knife to pierce the bubbles to release the air, and then continue to roll it out. I do not recommend rolling it out any thinner, because if you are using a ganache like we are that is chocolate brown, and your fondant is thin and rolled out to about 2 millimeters, you will see the ganache through it. In other words, it won't look white anymore. Once you have rolled out the fondant, you need to smooth it. If you have any imperfections, you can use a fondant smoother and smooth everything out completely. Let's cut off the uneven edges. You will need a knife, scissors, water, and a wide brush. First, we will cut off one edge of the rolled out fondant to make it straight. If you can't do it by eye, use a long ruler. Now have a look. I have this rolled out width that's a bit too much. I will also cut off the extra fondant so it's not in my way. Put the cake closer. The part that we have cut straight should be at the bottom, at the base of our cake. So, we take the fondant and put it over our hands and place it against our cake. Make sure that everything is flat at the bottom so that there are no imperfections. If there are any, be sure to fix them. Then we use the fondant smoother to smooth everything out. Do not use your hands, otherwise you will end up with smudges and dents. Next, here we have this excess part of our fondant that is in the way. We'll cut it right off. We'll cut off most of it. Also the top, so that our edges don't bend. We leave some spare, about 1 centimeter. Then we smooth everything again using our smoother. If your edges have bent, make sure to straighten them up. Otherwise, if your fondant edges bend and you leave them that way, the edges of your chocolate ganache won't be sharp anymore. Now there's a tail that we have left here, so we could glue it together. We need water and a brush. Wet the edge of your fondant in the place where we will join the other edge of the fondant. Join and stick the two edges together and start pressing very tightly. Keep in mind that if you do it this way, then you will end up with dents and leave nail marks. Therefore, you need to do this very carefully with your fingertips. We check whether everything is sticking together well. Everything is sticking well. You need to cut off this tail. It is best to use a craft knife because it is very thin and sharp. If the knife you are using is blunt, then your cut will look sloppy. Cut off most of it. Leave just a tiny bit, about 1/2 centimeter. We cut it off. Again, I really recommend you stick the edges together again and check that they are sticking well. If you don't stick them together well, after your cake sits for a while, it can settle a bit in the process. If there are any cracks, it might fall apart. We try not to leave any finger or nail marks. And now, if you are sure that everything is glued together well, cut off the rest of their tail. Don't do it in a soaring motion. Cut from top to bottom. If you need to, trim the bottom. Next, we take our smoother and move it from top to bottom or from bottom to top, and once again we smooth out the seam. Don't do it horizontally, otherwise you might achieve the exact opposite and our seam will split open. Next, we need to cut off our crown here. Again, we take the craft knife and make a cut. Place the knife straight against the surface of the cake. Do not hold the knife at an angle. Keep the knife parallel to the surface. And start cutting off the crown. My hand is not moving. I keep it in the same place. I spin the cake itself. If you need to cut off another piece, make sure to wipe the knife clean. Otherwise, you will end up with dirty fondant. Next, we need to roll out a small fondant circle to cover the top. While we do that, we can put the cake in the fridge so it's not warming up. Take a small piece of fondant, about 150 g, knead it so it is elastic and begin rolling it out. Make it a slightly larger diameter than our cake. The thickness of the rolled out fondant should also be about 4 mm. Again, if you see any imperfections, smooth them out using a fondant smoother. Next, take the cake out of the fridge and brush the cut fondant edges with some water. So that we can glue the surface and the sides together. Place it on and press it on with a smoother. Cut most of the fondant at the edges with scissors. Leave about ½ centimeter spare. You can smooth it again. Then, with a sharp knife or a craft knife, we'll cut off the edges. What we need for that: make a cut. Place the craft knife against the cake and cut off the edge in smooth movements, not in soaring motions. And we smooth everything out using our smoother. This is the result you should get. This is the end of our lesson on covering a cake with fondant. Thank you.